Well, it's my great pleasure today to host and to introduce our speaker, Emmy Chahal, the beautiful and profound Emmy Chahal. And before I get to speak a little bit about a couple things, and before I introduce her. Maybe it wasn't an accident, but I came across a poem that I had caught and penned in 2000. And when I was preparing for hosting and looking at the material of Emmy's talk, it occurred to me that that poem is fairly salient. So I'm going to tell you this poem. I call it Love. I have always loved you the best that I could in every moment. I love you. I will always love you. And my love will only ever grow, because it is love itself that guides me and helps me to heal. As the fear in me heals, I'm less likely to dishonor our relationship. For any mistakes that I have made, oh my goodness, how could I have forgotten this? For any mistakes that I have made in my relationship with you, I ask your forgiveness. For any mistakes that are too big to just forgive, please let me know how to make amends, for it serves neither us nor love itself to do otherwise. I love you. I will always love you, and my love will only ever grow. So, Emmy Chahal is a certified ancestral yoga teacher who has taught over 1,500 people in 4 countries. She's an intuitive healer, a writer, and a continuum doula. She is very qualified to help us today to learn to bridge cross-cultural gaps with her degree in cultural studies. She has a minor in women's studies. Emmy has taken additional training in compassionate communication, conflict resolution, violence prevention, youth empowerment, consent and relational education, and a variety of holistic health modalities. Emmy is the wise and gentle host of a podcast called the Love Exposure Podcast. I recommend you check it out. From the few months I have known Emmy, I can validate her intuitive capacity. I can say that she has a great love of life and a deep commitment to the empowerment of others. We met and had lunch recently and then shared a walk in the spectacular forest on the grounds of Pearson College. There, Emmy introduced me to a favorite tree. She scaled the tree, sat there loving it, and getting her pants stained with sap. So today, Emmy is going to speak with us about, and let me find where the title of the talk is again on my little sheet. The power of forgiveness and ancestral healing. Is it possible to create more peace on the planet? What does that require of us? This talk will cover a few thoughts about how we can create bridges between cultures and people through the power of forgiveness and cross-cultural education. Drawing upon her experience as a South Asian woman born in England and raised in Canada, she will discuss how integrating different aspects of our identity and our spirituality can make us feel more whole. As we embrace all parts of ourselves, we can find common ground with others. As we feel into our inherent worth and light, we are able to treat others with more kindness and grace. Through the power of self-compassion and compassion for others, we can start to heal societal divides that go back a long, long, long way. I added the long one, but I do know they do. In order to create a more peaceful and equitable future for all. So Emily is truly a delight to be with, as she is so full of joy. I'm pleased to introduce her and look forward to what she will share with us about the power of forgiveness and ancestral healing. Please welcome Emmy.
Hey, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. It's an honor to be here. Just like to invite everyone to just tune into the breath for a moment. And then maybe just feeling the earth underneath you. This sacred land that we're on, honoring the land that we're on and the ancestors of the land, the nation whose land we're on. And feeling also into the beautiful, rich, nurturing soil below us. Rooting down past the soil into the layers of sediment, the bedrock, the waterways, and breathing in the earth energy. Whenever you're ready to come back, you can slowly arrive back with your breath and the earth. So Martin Luther King Jr.'s words came to me this morning, so I wanted to share some quotes from him. So Martin Luther King Jr. says, "Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter." He also says, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." And finally, he has lots more quotes, but this is the last I have. Hatred paralyzes life. Love releases it. Hatred confuses life. Love harmonizes it. Hatred darkens life. Love illuminates it. Sat Sri Akal, my ancestors are from the north of India, the place where 5 rivers flow from the Himalayas into the breadbasket of the subcontinent. My ancestors were healers, farmers, psychics, Ayurvedic doctors, mystics, and more. I am from the place where yoga originated over 5,000 years ago. In 1947, our province of India was cut in half. The British drew an arbitrary line, without ever visiting that area, might I mention, that was the most diverse and heterogeneous. And all Muslims were forced to move to a landmass now called Pakistan. And all Hindus and Sikhs and other faiths were forced onto a landmass now known as India. The British employed a divide and conquer type of resource extraction colonialism for around 300 years. They stole $45 trillion worth of money. They banned yoga and temple dancing and saw those practices as vile, vulgar, irrational, and make-believe. They caused widespread famine and genocide due to the partition. The largest diamond in the world, the Koh-i-Noor, found in India, still lives in the Tower of London as stolen jewels. So how do we as Indians forgive the British? After all, the British did take over more than 25% of the world at one point. The sun never set on the British Empire, as that famous saying goes. Well, I was born on the land of the Anglo-Saxons in Britain, so I am British and Indian and Canadian. In the 1960s, my maternal grandparents were part of the Windrush generation. After World War II, Britain promised former colonies economic opportunities. So my grandparents left India in hopes of a better financial future for their children. Before colonization, India was 25% of the world's economy, rich in resources, and had never colonized anywhere else for 10,000 years. There was generally a spirit of religious and spiritual acceptance and tolerance, a sense of maitri, of loving kindness between peoples of different faiths, philosophies, and beliefs. So after being born on the land of the colonizer, the British, and living there for 4 years, the first 4 years of my life, my parents fled England in search of a place where they felt like they belonged for the first time in their life. That land was Coast Salish territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh, in the place now known as Vancouver. I grew up surrounded by multiculturalism and, people of many different backgrounds. This was really wonderful, but there was not a lot of talk or acknowledgement of Indigenous land rights or reconciliation. In fact, the first books I read by Indigenous scholars and authors were not until I was 20. and at university. At the age of 17, I was accepted to Pearson College, a wonderful place where at that time 200 students attended the school on full scholarship for 2 years, scholarships including tuition and housing and food. And we were 200 students who lived in the forest from 100 different countries. This was a total blessing in my life. I got to live in a room with 3 other women who were from 3 different continents. And I have been so blessed to live and travel abroad and be in international communities for much of my life. Here is what it has taught me. Our similarities are more important than our differences. Finding common humanity is so important for future possibilities of healing and collaboration. When we are more than the sum of our parts, we engage a power called synergy that allows for new solutions to come through. We all have both soul lineage and blood lineage. Our soul lineage spans the globe and the stars and the cosmos. Our blood lineage is equally important. Our genes, our parents, our grandparents, our culture, our trauma, our resilience, our strength. We cannot spiritually bypass the political pain and hardship of our human struggles without facing the truth, karma, consequences, and attempting to find justice and education around historical wrongs. Forgiveness cannot be forced. It cannot be something preemptive. It must spontaneously arise internally from a decision to free ourselves, to liberate ourselves from the chains of the past and negative thinking. Forgiveness is a choice, but it is not one we can force. It is something that must flow from our hearts and our bodies organically to transmute old pain. So we live with this ongoing history of benefiting from colonialism. But what is colonialism? Is it going to a new place and changing it and refusing to be changed by it? Often it's about fleeing, survival. It's about resource extraction and settlement with the sole purpose of perhaps profit. Is it about domination? Is it about imposition? Is it about conquering? Is it about separation? Is it about me before everybody else? Is it about ignoring and disrespectful decimation of cultures and peoples that lived here before? Is it based in disconnection? Is it the ignoring of the harm that was created? Is it a lack of empathy? Is it not built in the spirit of dialogue, peace, and joy? Or is it built on fear and greed and scarcity? We are all indigenous to somewhere on this earth, even if we have forgotten. We all have ancestors that want us to come home to them, to return to our ways of knowing. We all have places that call for us to come back to and remember. Our ancestors hear us when we speak our languages. That was something that was told to me by a wonderful elder out of Yura from the Kwakwaka'wakw Nation, that our ancestors hear us when we speak our languages, our ancestral languages, when we eat our ancestral food, when we sing our ancestral songs, when we dance, when we celebrate, when we pray, whatever it is that your ancestors love to do. We all have that richness and deep beauty of our own culture, even if our culture has committed significant wrongdoings and or experienced oppression. And the lands of our ancestors hold important keys for our deep understanding and unraveling. We have all been oppressed in some way, and we have all often oppressed others, even if it was just stepping on an ant. There is a strange dynamic here between victim, bully, and rescuer. We often give our power away to learn lessons of control and manipulation and how to free ourselves. Our soul is always at a higher state of awareness and exists beyond all of these power games. We know that with every challenge, there's also a solution, and we must step back to observe our thoughts, our mind, our conditioning, and emotions in order to transcend these old patterns of domination, pain, and trauma. Forgiveness is for ourselves. It is not healthy or good to hold on to anger, resentment, bitterness, guilt, shame. It doesn't feel good in our bodies, and sadness for a prolonged period. It's okay to feel those emotions and learn how to be with them. We can close our eyes, turn towards our heart in moments of discomfort, feeling into our body. unhooking from the thoughts and the stories and the pain to return to a place of still, quiet remembrance. In the reconnection to our bodies, our breath, and our life force, we can return to the infinite love that we are. Remembrance, reconnection, and reverence take us back to our soul's knowing of our oneness. We are all aspects of the divine. In Tantra and classical Indian yogic wisdom, everything is a vehicle to the divine. All parts of our life lead us back to the whole oneness that we are. We are in everything. We can look at a mountain and at the ocean and say, I am that. I am a spark of the divine, which permeates all. So how do we then bring the divine into everyday life? That can be so hard. I would like to share a story of how that happened for me in my personal life. In 2011, I was 19, after an amazing humanitarian cross-cultural educational trip to Kenya with my classmates and my teacher from Pearson College. I had a sinking sensation in my stomach as I got ready to fly back to Canada. I knew something bad had happened to my family, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. And as I arrived at the airport, I found no one there to greet me. This was a little bit weird. My mom and grandfather arrived late and ashen-faced. And as I got in the car, my mom turned to my granddad and said, should we tell her now? And I just prayed that nothing bad had happened to my dad or my brother. My mom proceeded to tell me that my 21-year-old cousin, who is pretty much like my brother's brother, Harpreet was his name, Harpreet Sandhu, or Happy for short, as we called him Happy, had been killed. My cousin Happy had been in a verbal altercation at a women's home near Burnaby in Vancouver. He wasn't part of a gang or involved in drugs. He worked at Lush and often gave me soaps and beautiful things he had made at the factory. He was a peaceful young man, shy, strong, tall, and warrior-like, as Punjabi men often are. Punjabis are also proud people and sometimes dramatic. He returned to that same house where he had that verbal altercation a few hours later with some friends. And as he stepped out of the car, he turned around when he saw that someone had a gun, and that person shot him, and one bullet raced right through his heart. He died in his friend's arms at the scene. My family was plunged into grief. I had never seen my aunt so sad. This senseless act of violence shook us. My dad was on the TV pleading with the public to come forward, as there had been many witnesses and people that knew who had killed my cousin. After 6 long years, the police finally arrested the suspect that they knew had done it all along. What I learned about forgiveness is this. Forgiveness is personal. It is about choosing to free ourselves from pain, worry, anger, and grief. It is not about condoning other people's actions. It is a choice to not carry that hate in our heart. Forgiveness is about love and alchemy. It is about admitting that we do not know better than life, and that life is mysterious. We come to this earth with nothing, and we die with nothing but the love in our hearts, hopefully as light as a feather. Jesus said, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." People committing crimes and other horrible things are reflecting an inner state of conflict and pain in their own mind and heart. They replicate on the outside what is on the inside, for hurt people hurt people. If we do not take full radical responsibility for our own life and actions, we are doomed to repeat the same patterns until we heal them. Every time a pattern repeats, it is just another chance to heal. So as we transform our inner state, our inner being, new possibilities arise when we are open to the fact that as we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. Perception shifts, and then external reality does too. Love is the only thing that is real. This quote from A Course in Miracles gets me through a lot, and it says, "Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God."
Well, what a rich conversation we had upstairs. Incredible. Really, really moving. Lots and lots of great wisdom. And I guess to summarize, we all agreed that, I would say we all agreed, if somebody doesn't agree with what I'm about, shoot me a pee or something. That healing comes from within first, and that is how we heal the world, and that's how we help the world. And it's so many incredible shares. Do you mind if I share my last thing? Because people thought that was, I got some good feedback. So, a friend of mine did a talk at Toastmasters some years ago about cells. She says in our body, there's healthy cells and pathogenic cells and opportunistic cells. And the opportunistic cells swing over to help the team that's winning. So there's a kind of a battle of supremacy between healthy cells and unhealthy cells, just like there is on the planet. And the opportunistic cells swing over and help the team that's winning. So a friend of mine said, oh, that's how it works in war too. This country goes to war with this country. And then there's some other countries that kind of wait and see who's winning and then go join that side. So we are to the planet as a cell is to our body. I am really sure that the time in the world right now, by numbers, there are more healthy cells than unhealthy cells. There's more people doing healing work. And we have the opportunistic cells swinging over to help us now, to help us all heal, to help the world body heal, if you will. So we never got to the second question. We had some truly amazing sharing. So Emmy, do you want to come in?
I wonder if Ollie wants to summarize.
Oh gosh, I'm terrible at summarizing. Okay, I'll do a quick job. You can never capture everything, but okay, you're gonna take over the computer. Okay. Well, a lot of our conversation seemed, excuse me, to circle around forgiveness and what it is and what it means. And so we did spend some time defining forgiveness. And I think the commonalities in the different definitions that were put forth was letting go. I think that was definitely the most central. Emmy, you added that it's also returning to love, which I think is a part of letting go. I mean, however you want to dice it, letting go brings you closer to love, because the things that you're letting go are the things that separate you from that love, which is always there. What else did we talk about? We talked about post-religious traumatic disorder, growing up in a religion, and how sometimes that can distort certain words like forgiveness or God or worship. Talked about throwing out the baby with the bathwater. When you've been in that situation, sometimes you just discard all religion and think that it's all bad. What else did we talk about? Man, we talked about a lot. I mean, again, it was a really beautiful conversation. There was lots of great wisdom shared and some vulnerable moments as well, which I'm always blown away by, because that's not easy. So yeah.
We also talked about forgiveness is for ourselves.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's about letting go and freeing yourself. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus says, if a person can make you angry, they are your master. So if you want to free yourself of anger. If someone can make you angry, they got control over you. So, you know, and when I tell my kids that, sometimes it works and they are like, all right. And other times they just go right into the rage, but that's okay. It happens and we're all there. But yeah, it's, for me, that's a helpful reminder. So
and the emotions, sitting with the emotions.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So not resisting when you feel something. And Courtney, you had mentioned that when you just sit with those emotions instead of fighting or trying to fix, they tend to just kind of go away after a little while. Whereas when you keep obsessing and you're keeping it alive in a way, right? So yeah, that was very good. Thank you. Thanks for reminding me. So yeah, that was the conversation. It was beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I just want to share one other thing. Ivory mentioned that she saw once in a profound moment that the world needs forgiveness.